In today's video, we're going to be going over the 8 key concepts to Roger Federer's topspin backhand. And there's some things that I don't expect you to be able to do like Roger Federer, but there are some simple steps that you can easily and quickly implement at home. And I'm going to show them to you. Let's begin. The first crucial part of a great one-handed backhand is what I call the L for leverage position, which is the angle of the wrist and racket head that forms an L shape or a 90-degree angle. And we see it in the start of the backswing. It's maintained into the power position back here before the start of the swing, and most importantly at contact point, where this is the main cause of a weak one-handed backhand and players not having any power. It's because the angle of the racket head in relation to the lower forearm is not up and fixed. So we're not so much focused on the grip, and after we hit the ball into the contact point, usually there is some wrist relaxation, but the angle usually comes back into the follow through. So that's the first thing. Step number 2 is the first move, the shoulder turn. You want to have a no backswing backhand. You actually don't want to take your racket back further than this. And we want our body to do more work than the racket. We want our shoulders to turn, and the racket actually needs to stay in front of our belly button. And if you look, it basically stays in the same spot that it started. And all I'm really doing is changing my grip and turning with the shoulders, right? If I reposition myself, it's really not much different from my ready position. Don't take your racket back further than here. The swing starts from up here, and then we go. Now, step number 3 is the forward step, or the last step, and the correlation with the racket drop. This is how to synchronize your backhand. We always step heel to toe with the front foot, and this is the initiation of the swing. A lot of my students make the mistake of playing from the toes and popping up and just locking the legs and swinging everywhere and not really having much control. What the heel to toe allows us to do is get this important bend in the front leg, which is going to allow us to stay down during the hit, right? We don't want to pop up during the swing. And this is going to fix our timing, okay? It's going to synchronize our shot. So the racket drop in the forward step needs to happen at the exact same time. And this is the initiation of the swing. Now, step number 4 is the power position, where the racket in the racket drop is almost parallel to the back fence and perpendicular with the baseline, right? Pointing towards right there. This is probably one of the most important parts for having a powerful backhand. It's getting this extra range of motion, which starts from up here, and really we get this wrap behind our body. And this is a combination of 2 things. The non-hitting hand, pulling the racket back for a bigger range of motion, and also it's an indication of a good full shoulder turn. The major checkpoint being our back basically pointing to the net, and the front shoulder being underneath our chin before the release. So you got to get back into the slot. Now, step number 5. The non-hitting hand needs to stay on the throat of the racket until it reaches your back hip. And then we release. You don't want to disconnect too early. Like I tell my students, okay, if you disconnect up here, you're not going to have any Wi-Fi on your backhand. The non-hitting hand is going to help us get back into this power position slot, right, where we get the racket back here. And it's also going to help us position the racket head before the contact point, where we can get it perfectly, just slightly under the ball, and then release around the back pocket, the back hip. So you don't want to let go until right here. Now, step number 6. From the release, the butt cap leads towards contact point as the racket lags behind and the arm straightens out. We want to make contact well in front, having a considerable distance here. It's not like the backhand slice where we actually want to contact the ball around in line with our front foot. We want to have a considerable distance and arm extension from the slot swinging inside to outside. Now, something subtle that both Roger Federer and Stan Wawrinka do that a lot of people never notice is the firing of the back foot. Okay, it's a small and subtle drag that allows us to engage the hips into the shot, okay? Because on the backhand, we need to stay sideways. It's not like the forehand where we can just fully uncoil. We have to stay sideways in order to have a compact swing. So you can do this to get a little bit of extra power when you're shifting your body weights forwards, and we drag the toe to engage our hips into the shot. Now, step number 8, the final step. We want the non-hitting hand to fire back in sync with the swing from the back hip. We want it to, what I tell my students, spread the wings. This is going to help us stay sideways and also stay on balance. So don't just forget about this hand. Don't be too cool for school and open up and just drag your backhand. You gotta make sure it fires back as well. This is what it looks like from the back. Boom. Boom. And there you have it. If you like what you learned here, I recommend taking the next step and trying out my free online course. You can get it by clicking the link down in the description.